Buy. No, sell. Buy. What to do with those Cubs season tickets? Are they even still worth it anymore? All new Locked On Cubs. It's a Friday edition. Rolling now.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, happy Friday to you. Welcome on in. This is indeed Locked On Cubs. I am indeed your host, Andrew Bellison. I was the public address announcer at Wrigley Field for 10 years, and now I'm happy, thrilled to be part of the Locked On podcast family. Locked On Cubs, you make it your first listen each and every morning, and we thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me preface this all by saying at the time of this show, we do not have a new CBA deal in place. By the time you see this, there may be. If that's the case, tune in to us at Locked On Cubs YouTube or wherever you download your favorite cast. We're free and available for all the updates and news that you might want. Check us on Twitter as well at Chicago Cubs PA at Locked On Cubs. Again, no deal as of yet, but by the time you see this, there may be. Check us on social, YouTube, and wherever you download your favorite podcasts, free and available for all the news and updates regarding the new CBA and the lockout. Capiche? Deal. We have fantasy baseball help for you. Are you tired of sucking in your fantasy baseball league? We are ready to meet the top 15 Cubs prospects that you could draft if you have a dynasty league, meaning minor league slots. And how good can the Cubs bullpen be in 2022? We'll dive into that as well. But first, we're in the midst of a lockout. We have been since early December. There's no spring training. Free agency got cut short. Now we have word that another couple series for each club are canceled, nixed, kaput. So I ask you, it's a big chunk of change to have season tickets to a Major League Baseball club. Is it worth it? Well, let's look at both sides. Yes, at times. There may be money to be made on them. Aftermarket ticket sales, playoff games, marquee matchups, etc. If you had season tickets during those Cubs playoff runs, there's no question you cashed in if you sold World Series tickets. Now, a lot of people probably don't want to sell them, and I get that. You want your butt in the seat for a World Series game at Wrigley, but they were worth a lot of cashola. Let's be honest, though. Most people cannot afford an 81-game package. That is a big, big thing to swallow. It's a big time commitment. It's a big financial commitment. And selling some of the lesser prestigious calendar days, for instance, April, September, weekday night games, etc., means a financial loss. Where am I going with all this? Let me preface this by saying, I cannot wait to get back to Wrigley Field and watch a baseball game. I haven't sat in the stands at Wrigley Field since 2010 with my then girlfriend, now wife. I worked for the team for 10 years, had a front row seat to every ball game, but I want to sit in the stands. I want to have a beer. I want to have some peanuts. Guess what? We can't. But with that said, you couldn't pay me to buy Cubs season tickets. No joke. I think it is the toughest thing in the world to manage. It's too expensive. And let's be honest, with the current state of affairs, who wants them? Again, where am I going with all this? Well, you get a ton of perks if you're a season ticket holder, right? You get playoff ticket right of refusal. They have special events, season ticket holder open houses. We used to work them when I was at Wrigley. The red carpet they roll out for the season ticket holders is great. Open house at Wrigley Field, on the field, playing catch. However, it comes at a price. It's an expensive investment. Really interesting article earlier in the week, and I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Megan Montemurro put this one together. Megan, thank you. I don't know if you're a Locked On listener. I hope you are, but this was an awesome article. I love the angle that she took on this topic, Megan with the Tribune. Lots of people getting the phone call now that they have the ability to purchase tickets after being thousands deep on this list for years and years. And that's what happens when you have a recent dry spell on the field, right? Things go south. Team gets traded away. Fans say adios. Not willing to pony up the cash, and I don't blame them. 81 games just for seats, not to mention what you're paying for a hot dog and a beer once you walk into that ballpark. It's insane, right? What Megan did in this article is awesome, and I hope you check this out. She discussed season tickets with 12 different families from all different categories, from first-time buyers all the way down the line to those that ditched their tickets after last season because the disappointing finish was brutal. So I was curious as to what each had to say because I have a personal connection with this season ticket thing as well, which we'll get to here in a moment. New popular option for prospective ticket holders, as Megan outlines, and this is pretty cool, is a half plan, something that the Cubs hadn't offered or didn't have to offer more accurately for quite some time. They could get away with anything they wanted when things were rolling. Plus, this fan base is the best, right? We are the best fans in baseball, period. Well, now things are a little bit slimmer. You got to get a little bit leaner. They offer a half plan, 41 games of the 41 games of the 81 home games that will let you take on half of the responsibility, both financially and time-wise. Among the new season ticket holders, according to Megan in this article, 28% purchased the 41-game package, according to the Cubs. However, less than 5% of the returning season ticket holders chose to switch to that option, which surprises me. I would have thought there would have been more people in line for that lesser package. What's the difference? Well, there's some big differences in it, and this might be the key. The key difference is perks. Unlike full season ticket holders, half-season plans are not guaranteed postseason, and we think the Cubs are returning to the postseason here shortly, we hope anyway, so that's a big drawback. Full season ticket holders also have access to a ticket exchange program, can swap select games for better games with flexibility issues, et cetera, receive a credit for the next year. So you say adios to all that if you're doing a halfie, okay? Many have inquired about the season ticket holder pool for the organization the last couple of years since things have kind of gone south, especially since so many have decided to give them up. The size of the Cubs season ticket fan base going into 2022, which is something that I was very curious about, is unclear. The Cubs declined to disclose the figures, stating they're still in the process. Well, what does this mean? We can read between the lines. It means the number is lower than it has been in years past, right? There's less season ticket holders, and they are a loyal group. Cubs season ticket holders, some of the best people I ever met at Wrigley Field, loyal to a fault, and I love that. But let's face it, when you have a terrible product on the field, that is a lot of coinage to spend every year, and it's not getting any cheaper. So what about those that decided to renew season tickets from this group Megan talked to and stay as part of the Cubs season ticket holder family? One family had very strong and telling opinions on what they felt of the recent organizational transgressions, even though they re-upped their plan. They paid for season tickets again. This is a direct quote from this family. They've lost sight of the fans to some degree, they said. Did they make some great changes around the ballpark? Overall, I like them. Now, I don't like the idea of the sports book they're building on Addison and Sheffield. I don't understand why you need to ruin that corner. I always feel like they're fleecing me for more money on everything. And so you appreciate places like Murphy's. That's the bastion of the resistance. Wow. This is someone who decided to write the check to the Cubs organization amidst a lockout, amidst not being super happy with what's going on in terms of where the money is going that they're spending, yet they re-upped anyways. I don't blame you. The neighborhood and the area around Wrigley is gorgeous now, thanks to what the Ricketts family has done. But I understand the sentiment when you get season ticket holders who pay, and don't have the product on the field year in and year out that you expect to have. Perennial contender should be the Chicago Cubs in a market this big with the financial resources that the Ricketts family supposedly has, period. How about some people that waited and waited only to turn them down? One particular fan was 50,000 deep about 3 years ago on the waiting list. 50,000 deep. Got the call this year and bailed despite living down the street from Wrigley Field. His quote, "All of a sudden I'm in the same boat as them. I don't want to pay thousands for a mediocre product, especially when you've shown me you have the competence to put a contender/championship team together. It's just not worth it. They built such a good team over the course of the last decade, and it was time to pay them. They just didn't." So kind of similar sentiment there. More money towards the field, which we're seeing. And if the lockout ends, I think we're going to see another splash. But again, I get the sentiment. Again, I'm not a season ticket holder. I got the call about 4 or 5 years after I got hired by the Cubs. I asked my parents, I begged my parents to be on the wait list from the time I was in high school. Finally got the call some, 10, 12, 15 years later, politely declined the tickets. Never been a season ticket holder since. I also have family that gave up their seats after last year. They had a full package. They split the package with 3 other families because it's just too much. I get the corporate thing. It's a good write-off. Entertain clients. The business takes on the expense. I totally understand that. But doing it on a personal level is very, very tough. And again, you're not counting going into the stadium, buying a beer, buying a pop, buying a $10 hot dog, or however much they cost. Again, I haven't been in the stands for so long. Rightfully so for the sentiments these people have. What's the bottom line? Cubs fans, you tell me. I want to hear from you, Locked On fam. Do we have season ticket holder listeners that listen to the podcast on a daily basis? Is the prestige of a Major League Baseball season ticket plan less appealing than it once was? Has the game outpriced itself? A lot of fun from Megan to hear from these groups of people that have dealt with or are dealing directly with the season ticket holder dilemma and decision right now, especially in the midst of this lockout. More or less, there's clearly a divide between some fans and the organization in terms of the direction they're headed and where the cashola is going. Great look. Check that out if you haven't in the Trib. Awesome read. But I want to hear from you, season ticket holders. Let me know on social what your thoughts are. It's time to go back down to the farm. So run to the closet, get your overalls. Coming up next here on Locked On Cubs. Before we get there, I want to talk to you about Built Bar. I know you hear it every day, and I promise you, if you haven't tried it, you will like it. Have you tried the puffs yet? Maybe you've had the bar, but not the puffs. Let me tell you something. If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best tasting products that Built Bar has. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. That's right. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, but they're good for you. They're covered in 100% real chocolate, but the macros are good. This is not something that's going to ruin your gut, like going to the 7-Eleven and grabbing a Snickers bar. Puffs are a fan favorite because of some of the incredible flavors, but all of the flavors, even on the original Built Bars, mint brownie, coconut almond, white chocolate cookies and cream, are all delicious. Do yourself a favor. Go to Built.com. Use our promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off your order at Built.com today. Please, Locked15, Built.com. Try the product. I promise you will like it. Get the overalls. We're headed to the farm. This is Locked On Cubs. Welcome back in. Happy Friday to you. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. This is Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, free and available wherever you download your favorite cast. Check us out on Twitter at Chicago Cubs PA, at Locked On Cubs. Love to engage with you guys. I can't tell you what it means to me to be part of the Locked On family, sticking with us through the lockout, through the CBA negotiation, still being true and loyal. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow, including some of those studs down on the farm in the Cubs organization that we're going to talk about again here in a moment. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Check out Locked On MLB Podcast. You will enjoy it. So, we've talked about all of the overhaul that happened last year, the core, adios. What did the Cubs get back? Well, we've highlighted some of these studs that are in the Cubs minor leagues right now, some closer to being major league ready than others. However, why do we keep beating this dead horse, so to speak? This is obviously the future, but this could pertain to you. Are you a fantasy baseball player? Do you intend to be this year? If you do, there's a good chance you have a really deep keeper league that forces you to draft minor league talent and shelve them on your roster. Well, now is the time to do that with some of these guys in the Cubs organization before the word gets out and other people snatch them up. I want to help you. Locked On Cubs wants to help you be a better fantasy player this year and take home that crown, whatever league you might be in. You've heard these names. Let me run you down. We're going to go in depth on 3, but here's the top 15 Dynasty prospects for your fantasy league from the Cubs organization only. Brennan Davis, top prospect in the organization. Reginald Preciado, Christian Hernandez, Pete Crow Armstrong, Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey, James Trontos, Alexander Canario, Christian Franklin, Ismail Mina, Jordan Mogu, Nelson Velasquez, Ed Howard, DJ Hertz, Caleb Killian, and Braylon Marquez. Okay, that was 16, right? Those guys are all standouts in this suddenly stacked Cubs farm system. So what? You're a fantasy player in a keeper league that has dynasty slots, meaning you draft minor league talent as well. You need to get some of these gentlemen on your roster and hold them for tomorrow, because it's going to be too late and they're going to be gone, and you're going to look back and say, shoot, I could have had him on my club when he kind of flew under the radar still. So what are the big three here that we would recommend? We talked about three the other day. Brennan Davis included in that. Might be too late on him. The word's out on Brennan, man. We're going to see him at Wrigley this year. What about James Triantos, the shortstop? Out of all the players, and he's a youngster. I mean, let's be honest. But of all the players drafted this past July, he has seen his stock rise the most. The Cubs second round selection slash 324 with a 372 on base percentage and slugged 590 with 6 taters and 3 steals in just 26 games after the draft last summer. The Cubs did go over slot to sign him in July, and it's easy to see why. The guy is a flat-out stud. He's got an advanced feel for hitting, according to the scouts, above average to plus raw power, and at least average speed, so the speed's not killing him by any stretch. Still projection for more power down the road as well, and he nailed 6 homers in 24 games last year, which is awesome. His skill set and strong performance following the draft have him skyrocketing up our ranks here at Locked On Cubs and the overall prospect list right now, wherever you read them. He's already a borderline top 100 dynasty prospect with the upside to rise even much higher. Keeper league, dynasty slots, he's a guy you want on your roster now as you draft this year before it's too late. What about Nelson Velasquez, the outfielder? He was the 2021 Arizona Fall League MVP. Easy inclusion in this list for someone you have to draft for your keeper league. He quietly, if you can do that, put up a 20 homer, 17 steal season in just 103 games between high A and double A. Before socking a league-leading 9 AFL homers en route to league MVP honors last fall in Arizona. Power profile here is super enticing, and Velasquez has around average speed as well. Strikeouts have been an issue, and that's common with younger players, right? So not a huge red flag at this point. That remained the case during the fall league as well. If you combine the regular season and the fall league, Velasquez struck out over 30% of the time, not much, but a smidge over. It's going to need to improve in 2022 with age and approach. I clearly think that will. One of the more intriguing guys to me, and we've discussed him at length as well, Owen Casey, one of my favorite hitters in the 2020 draft class, 6'4", big boy, Canadian outfielder, plus or better power, solid projection left on his frame too, with some added bulk, could be a 70 grade power bat in time with a 35 home run potential. Now we're talking. Did I get the light bulb to flash for you there? Outside of the power, he's shown exceptional patience at the plate, working the count, waiting for a pitch he can drive. Casey also showed better than advertised contact skills in 2021. Hit 302 in 54 games, even with him struggling after the promotion to low A. So Owen Casey, arguably the top power bat in the organization, another name to watch. Again, why are we doing all this? If you have a keeper league, this is something that's very important in terms of your dynasty slots. If you can draft these guys now, keep them on your roster and hold them for when the time comes and they do get to the bigs, you will thank us later on. I promise you. If defense wins championships, then good bullpen arms win multiple trophies. How good or bad is the Cubs pen going to be in 2022? We're going to dive into that here shortly. Before we do, it's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, all your podcasts, and news all season long. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action available. BetOnline, where the game starts. Locked On Cubs continues next. Welcome back into Locked On Cubs. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Again, thank you for taking the time to make us your first listen each and every morning. Join us on Twitter, won't you, at Chicago Cubs PA, at Locked On Cubs for the show. We are free and available wherever you download your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Locked On Cubs YouTube page. A lot of good stuff on there. It's time for Bullpen Talk. Here we are at the time of year that we could potentially start to have an idea on how the bullpen will shake out for the Cubs. However, the lockout has prevented that. And speaking of that, as I mentioned in the show open, no new agreement yet. CBA still being hashed out. By the time you watch this, that could be different. So stay tuned to Locked On Cubs, especially on Twitter and at Chicago Cubs PA for all the latest news if things change between now and then. We've been taking a look at the Cubs and specifically how they stack up against the four other divisional teams in several different categories: rotation, manager, offense, etc. Today, we arrive at the bullpen. We essentially save the best for last. Bullpens win championships, so do defenses, but bullpens win championships, period. I've said this over and over. This Cubs team was a 10-12 over 500 team last June with a really good back end of the bullpen. Kimbrel, Chafin, Tepera. Those guys get dealt away. Not a coincidence that things start to tank after that. Could we see a reunion with some of them? Maybe a Chafin, Tepera reunion. I would not be opposed to that. They need some help down there. So how good or bad can the pen be compared to the other clubs? Well, first, how did the other pens in the division perform last year? Per Fangraphs, last year's rankings looked like this overall. Cardinals were 11th in the bigs, Brewers 15th, so right in the middle of the pack. Reds, Cubs battled it out for lower third, top of the lower third echelon, overall rankings I'm talking in terms of just the pen, 21st, 22nd. Pirates bringing up the rear at 27th. So if you're talking about how the Cubs rank in the division bullpen-wise based off last year, and you look at the losses they had and what they've added, it's really not fair. It's an unfair judgment, and here's why. Let's stop what we're talking about and freeze frame a snapshot here real quick and look at the Cubs pen rankings for 2021 through the month of June, say. So after the first 3 months, way different. Through June 30th of 2001, get this. Cubs had the third best bullpen in all of baseball. Let me say that again. Through June 30th, 2021, Cubs had the third best bullpen in all of Major League Baseball. 23 saves, 11 strikeouts per 9-inning average, nearly 80% left on base percentage, and a 3.11 ERA. Holy smokes. Now, like I said, coincidence that they went tank city after those big three were gone? Absolutely not. Other factors, sure, but that was huge. Here's the deal. You need to bring pieces like that back in order to keep this bullpen somewhat respectable in 2022. Otherwise, it's going to kill you. We don't feel the Brewers and Cardinals have made significant improvements to their clubs. And the Brewers bullpen, which was middle of the pack last year, and obviously Hader's a stud, is helped out by the rotation that they have, which is one of the best in all of baseball. Their big three is sensational. We don't feel that the Brewers and Cardinals have done enough significantly to prevent a team like the Cubs from catapulting up the standings from their fourth place 2021 finish. But that does come with a caveat. You need more help. They need bullpen help. And I know there's not a team in Major League Baseball at any point in the year that would say otherwise. You always need bullpen arms, right? It's always on the list, but it's incomplete right now because we don't know how things are going to fill in. Here's what I'll say. Strong pieces down there. Hoyer, Wick, Steele, Thompson, the talent is really good. We don't know how the back end of the rotation is going to shape up because some of those guys might slot to the bullpen depending on how those fourth and fifth starter positions go. So that would dictate some. With that said, I need the Cubs to go out and spend some cashola once free agency opens again and the CBA thing is hashed out on some proven arms. I'm not talking Kenley Jansen, big-time money, big-time mileage, on the arm, closer, money. I don't like the way those deals typically work out. It's a sexy pick, right? It's a sexy signing. It would stalk the headlines. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for seeing a Kenley Jansen type stopgap at the end of that bullpen because they need one. They need a proven closer, in my opinion, who's been there and done that. I just don't like locking up too many years and too much coin in a reliever with miles on his arm like that, even though he reinvented himself last year and had a hell of a year with the Dodgers. What about reunion time? Ryan Tepera, Andrew Chafin, I mentioned this a moment ago. Yes, yes, yes. I feel that if that is feasible post-lockout, the Cubs pen could turn some heads. They have some great quality young arms that could slide into that pen, but I would like to see one or two veteran guys that can go to the back of that bullpen immediately, that are proven and have been there. Some of the money that the Cubs spend when this CBA is hashed out and the lockout is over better be on bullpen arms that are proven. And I'm not talking big mega deals, Kenley Jansen type. I'm just talking some guys who have been there, done that aren't going to break the bank. We've talked about some of these, and I think the two best might be guys that we could have a reunion with. Chafin from the left, Tepera from the right. So if that's the case, could turn things around, meet somewhere in the middle between the first 3 months of the bullpen's performance and the last three, and have a respectable pen over the course of a 162-game season. Possible? I do. I do think it's possible. Again, at the time of this show, there has been no new CBA agreement in place. However, in the interim, that may change. Stay tuned to @ChicagoCubsPA, @LockedOnCubs for all the latest info over the weekend. We might have a special edition if we have news as well. So stay locked on Cubs for all of your CBA news moving forward. Happy Friday. Thank you for being with us. Fingers crossed. We need more good news out of the negotiations in New York. Thanks for making Locked On Cubs your first listen every day. Now, make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. We will talk to you when we have better news. This has been Locked On Cubs.